Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat pagi kepada semua yang hadir pada sesi webinar hari ini. Nama saya Azlim bin Ismail, mewakili pihak syarikat Untitled Chapter atau lebih dikenali sebagai i-Nusantara. Terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada semua yang sudi meluangkan masa anda untuk menyertai webinar ini. Okey, mengikut trend semasa, kebanyakan organisasi sekarang menggalakkan kerjasama dan flexible teamwork dengan mewujudkan file sharing system sama ada menggunakan on-premise storage ataupun public cloud storage seperti Dropbox, Google Drive dan sebagainya. Manakala data yang disimpan di belakang firewall ditempatkan di dalam protected server dan rangkaian dan diakses secara dalaman sahaja, potensi risikonya adalah lebih kecil. Akan tetapi, jika data-data tersebut perlu diakses keluar daripada organisasi seperti email attachment, perkongsian dengan pihak ketiga, muat turun oleh pekerja dari luar dan sebagainya, maka keselamatan data-data tersebut adalah tidak lagi terjamin. Data in transit biasanya lebih mudah terdedah kepada kecurian berbanding data at rest. Bertitik tolak daripada itu, sesi webinar ini adalah untuk berkongsi mengenai produk yang boleh membantu organisasi anda dalam mengatasi permasalahan ini. Dan seterusnya, kekal selamat semasa mengakses dan berkongsi file-file organisasi anda di luar pejabat seperti di rumah dan sebagainya. Stay safe while working at home, while working from home. Okey, sedikit mengenai kami. Bagi produk iXsystems, pengedar eksklusif di Malaysia adalah syarikat Optimium Solutions dengan Berhad. Optimium juga merupakan salah satu pengedar bertauliah bagi produk iXsystems. Manakala i-Nusantara adalah merupakan salah satu daripada wakil penjual yang sah bagi kedua-dua produk ini. Okey, objektif webinar kita pada pagi ini adalah ada dua. Pertama, untuk memperkenalkan penyelesaian enterprise file security pada satu platform untuk mengurus, berkongsi dan mentadbir file di mana dan bila-bila masa sahaja. Manakala objektif kedua kita ialah untuk memperkenalkan penyelesaian innovative storage dan superior enterprise server yang berasaskan pada teknologi open source, sumber terbuka. Okey, agenda kita webinar pada pagi ini pertama adalah kita mulakan dengan pengenalan iXsystems oleh Mr. Hyo Chin Fat, kemudian diikuti dengan pengenalan iXsystems oleh Mr. Lim Tau Sun. Seterusnya kita akan ada demonstrasi produk iXsystems dan diakhiri dengan sesi soal jawab. Okey, sesi pengenalan ini akan diadakan dalam bahasa Inggeris, okey, supaya lebih senang memahami terma-terma teknikal yang ada dengan lebih jelas. Sebelum itu, sebelum memulakan sesi pengenalan, kita akan sertakan sedikit biodata mengenai pembicara kita pada pagi ini. Pertama ialah untuk produk iXsystems kita ada pre-sale di Optimium. Mr. Lim Tau Sun ialah pre-sale di Optimium Solutions dengan Berhad. Beliau telah terlibat dalam teknologi security lebih daripada 10 tahun. Manakala pembicara untuk produk iXsystems, kita akan bawakan Encik Hyo Chin Fat. Beliau merupakan pengurus besar di iXsystems Asia Pasifik, terlibat dalam teknologi storan dan pengurusan data lebih daripada 30 tahun. Dicata untuk mengembangkan pasaran iXsystems terunas dan membantu menyelesaikan cabaran pertumbuhan data growth. Dan currently beliau ialah merupakan pengurusi Storage Network Industry Association (SNIA) selama 11 tahun sehingga kini. Dan beliau juga berpengalaman luas dalam pengurusan data upstream untuk bawah permukaan subsurface bagi enterprise IT dan oil and gas. Okey, untuk itu, untuk memulakan agenda yang pertama, pengenalan mengenai produk iXsystems, saya menjemput Encik Hyo Chin Fat.
Really, to start with is, we create a lot of data, we talk about a lot of structured and unstructured data, we start to share a lot of data, right? At the consumer level, at the end user level, it's very straightforward. But when it comes to the business, when it comes to operations, things in the government, things in oil and gas, where the information is sensitive, right? You have to make sure that you have actually the right solution. To actually develop the right solution, both iXsystems as well as iXsystems has come together to put forth a solution, all right, so that we can actually explain to you, where you can actually build a solution that is highly secure, very important, all right, which is unlike, some of the public storage services that you see in Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive. This will be very different because it's very uniquely yours, and this is where you can actually place your data under control. So the messaging that we want to focus on today is really talking about the data foundation, right, for the EasyShare digital transformation solution. Next slide, please. Next slide. So we talk about data foundation, right? Because today we are using data in such powerful ways. We find that a lot of this data becomes the center of the digital transformation initiative. What exactly is digital transformation? It's really to actually bring across the three main components, which is people, process, and technology, all in one, to actually make a lot of today's processes, a lot of engagements into using digital services. Okay. Now, the very important thing is, in order to support this digital transformation initiative, the foundation to keep the data, all right, to ensure that the data is delivered from point A to point B, from the server to the client, from the application to the end user, must be rock solid. All right. So this is what we're going to talk about. All right. Data at the heart of every transformation. We want to make sure that the foundation to support the data is very strong. And of course, we talk about this work from home paradigm is really creating a new paradigm of work. Even when this pandemic is over, we will see that the way we work will be very different. And then in the end, it will be across many borders. In fact, it might be even borderless as we actually move forward. Next slide, please. Now, to address this foundation, it's very important to look at the data from the storage point of view, because no matter how you create the data, it has to be kept inside a storage. It could be, a compact flash card in your camera, or it could be a small secure SD card. All right, but those are actually very small storage platforms. But as you actually consolidate the data, centralize the data, you have to make sure that the data is always available. It has to be protected. It must be high performance. It must be accessible, meaning that it has to integrate with things like identity management in terms of how the services are, right? Directory services that we'll talk about a bit later. At the same time, even though it's protected, no matter how many times you back up, you must be able to recover the data easily, all right? Because the longer you take the data, the service will be actually affected. And of course, it has to be manageable, it has to be secured, and it has to be compliant. So these 8 points are very critical when we talk about large-scale data, all right? And our storage, which is a TrueNAS storage from iXsystems, will address all these 8 points quite well. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to introduce this data storage for the data foundation. Next slide. Let's look at point number 1, which is availability. We want to make sure that the data is always on, because today, I think every user, right, whether it's a business user or consumer user, expects the data to be always available at their fingertips. The moment, let's say, WhatsApp goes down, or a file service sharing service goes down, everybody starts to make a lot of noise, and nobody can work. And each time the data services is not available, it actually companies can actually lose money. Organization can actually lose valuable time in productivity. All right. So in terms of that, we talk about a very high uptime. 99.999, or we call it the 5 nines uptime, will actually allow you to have a downtime about 5 minutes a year. All right. So something that the TrueNAS is able to achieve. And how it achieves it is actually using a dual controller system. A dual controller system means that one controller will be serving the data services while one is actually on standby. In the event that, unfortunate event that one of the controller fails, within 60 seconds or less, all right, the second controller would have taken over the services and continue the data services to EasyShare. So this is very critical. So, and this is transparent as well. As I mentioned in the third point, is transparent storage switchover, meaning that the user don't even know that a physical controller would have been affected, and it has switched over to a standby controller. All right, next slide. Okay, second point is about protection, because once you have actually kept the data and make it, put it into a storage system that is as reliable as possible, you want to make sure that you protect it. Now, one of the very unique feature is this capability called self-healing. Now, over time, we know that data, they are being shared, they are being stored, they are being deleted, they are being modified, that sort of things, right? At some point, the data can be corrupted. A lot of times, sometimes we pick up a photo and the photo somehow doesn't look right. Okay, something is not wrong there. So there's actually a very likely chance that the data could be corrupted. Now, what this system or this solution can do, the TrueNAS system can do, is provide the capability to do self-healing, meaning that it's able to check whether its data is corrupted. And if it was corrupted by actually verifying something called a checksum, all right, it would actually get a second copy and then overwrite the corrupted copy to fix the, the data that was corrupted. So this self-healing capability is actually very unique to the TrueNAS system. We have a solution called snapshots. It is unlimited number of snapshots. We did a webinar early this year in January, and we talked about ransomware recovery. The solution has what we call a rollback capability. A rollback is something like if you have used the Apple system, Apple Mac OS, there's something called a time machine. If you have used Windows, if you right-click to a folder or a file, you can actually go back to a previous version. Now, this previous version is integrated with the TrueNAS, meaning that if you get a file from a network drive, automatically you can actually do a rollback if your file was infected by ransomware or it was corrupted, it was accidentally deleted by users. And all this can be enabled via a self-service capability, all right? And of course, protection, we talk about clones and we talk about replication for disaster recovery. I'll talk more about disaster recovery afterwards. Next slide, please. Of course, in order to make sure that the data is performant, you do not want to actually ask for the request for a file and wait like 2 seconds or 5 seconds, right? Sometimes that time is actually too long. You want the system to be able to respond and give you the file in an instant. So in our case, all right, the TrueNAS system is able to deliver a very high I/O per second. That's why we call the IOPS, as you see there, right? We are able to deliver throughput, all right? Note that the IOPS and throughput are two performance measurement, and this allows you to actually build or put in a system that's very, very responsive. The moment you click it, you'll be able to access it very, very fast. Next slide, please. The fourth point is accessibility, because the storage system doesn't work in silo. All right, there are certain services, as I mentioned earlier. There's something called IAM, Identity Access Management, and Active Directory LDAP that you see in the second point, which is a lightweight access directory access protocol, are actually some of the common IAM protocols that's being used. This allows the system to actually work with authentication of the users, allow the authorization of what the authenticated user is allowed to do. It's like permission. That means you get an IC, that's the authentication that proves who you are. And then at the same time, the IC will tell you which is the access level you can get to. Maybe you can get to the first floor and the second floor, but the third floor, fourth floor, you are not allowed to. That's talking about authorization. So our TrueNAS system integrates with these services, all right, to allow you to actually build a complete integrated services for accessing the files as well. Next slide, please. Now, this is the part where we talk about recovery, right? We talk about protection in the second point, but it's very important that no matter how much you back up, the critical measuring factor is recovery, because if you back up 100 times, but the recover, you can't recover it, then the data is not usable. Now, it's very important that you want to make sure that the data recovery value has to be integrated into your solution. Because we have snapshots itself that is built into the protection, all right, you can have near instant recovery, all right. It allows you to actually bring back, let's say, 1 million files in 2 minutes, for example. Let's say your entire folders has been encrypted by ransomware, or it was actually being infected by virus, for example. You can use the snapshot capability to reverse, or do a rewind of the previous version, and you can do it very, very quickly using the snapshots. Now, VSS is actually called the Volume Shadow Copy Services. This is part of Windows, all right? This part itself allows you to actually integrate with the Windows backup and recovery services. Now, in this picture, which is slightly technical, it actually talks about disaster recovery, because one system itself could be a production system. And if the system is critical, you want to make sure that the data is protected, not just in one location, all right? You want to put it into multiple locations. Perhaps, one is actually in your data center, and another one is in your secondary disaster recovery site. Now, using this kind of capability, you can see that Easy Share with the SQL database as well as the .NET framework itself can be protected using the TrueNAS replication solution, right, for disaster recovery reasons. So you can actually switch over your user if your production location is been affected by any kind of disaster. Next slide, please. Now, to wrap it all around, you have to ensure that this has to be easily managed. All right, we have very intuitive GUI. Now, the GUI itself allows the single administrator to manage all the different features as well as the functions of the storage. At the same time, the new generation of applications also require API integration, right? Which means that people are starting to write scripts. People are actually starting to write different command lines that's able to integrate into the application so that they can actually spin up and spin down the services very quickly. So we offer both web and socket API. And last but not least, we also have a software called TrueCommand. Now, assuming that you have many TrueNAS systems, not just one, maybe you have 10, you can actually use the TrueCommand software to manage all 10 with a single dashboard. So this is the TrueCommand. It's available in the cloud as a subscription services. It can be dropped in as a virtual machine, as a VM, as you see in point number 3, as well as it also can be integrated into a container and managed by Kubernetes. Next slide, please. So after we look at that, all right, we have to make sure that we also have protection of the data structures that we have created inside TrueNAS. All right, we have encryption that is built into for the disk, meaning that once the disk is at rest, meaning that the data is kept in the disk itself, and you want the physical disk to be transported, you can actually encrypt the disk so that they are protected by a key phrase or a password. All right, we don't call it password, we call it passphrase because it's much more sophisticated than a password. And in addition to that, the logical structures like a storage pool or the data set that is inside the TrueNAS can also be encrypted so that when you actually replicate them across the network, the data set is also protected. We support something called KMIP, which is point number 2. KMIP stands for Key Management Interoperability Standard. What it does here is there's an international body called OASIS, all right? And they actually manage a standard called KMIP, where every different device, all right, for example, let's say if you use public keys or symmetric keys or digital certificates or digital signing and so on and so forth, can be managed through the KMIP server, right? You can think of KMIP like a key locker. They can keep all kinds of key for you, all right? And our TrueNAS actually integrates and supports the KMIP standard. Next slide. Okay, so once you put it all right, these are some of the less technical things, but it's very crucial, right, when we actually deal with the capability of how the data is being used. And in every organization, whether it's actually public organization, and especially public organizations that is in the government or in the public sector itself, compliance is very important, because compliance translates to trust, right? We have to trust the system to ensure that, you know, what we do is followed according to, let's say, SOP, right? We are so used to the word SOP nowadays, right? So everything that, how the data is shared, how the data is transferred from, you know, one system to another, how it's actually provided to one user to another, how it's actually being deleted, all these things can be created through a process that is actually compliant. Now, how these things can be done is you can actually run through audit logs, all right? Sometimes you do not want the data to be modified forever. So this is what we call the immutable data repository, all right? The second point is talking about immutability, means that once the data has been written, it cannot be modified at all. And this is very important when it talks about legal document, because you do not want people to modify the legal what do you call that? Legal information as well, right? And in government, this is very critical. Another one is actually called the worm capability. Worm stands for write once, read many. It's almost the same as immutable, but it allows you to actually delete after you have set an expiry date. Let's say, for example, you have written to a storage, and the storage itself, you want the data to be kept for 6 months. Only after 6 months, then the people can actually erase the data. The worm capability is something that is available in TrueNAS to address some of the compliance requirement. Next slide, please. So next slide. So let's look at the architecture. All right, how does TrueNAS become the data foundation for EasyShare? Now, if you look at this architecture diagram, this is slightly technical. On the left-hand side is where, you know, the public internet is. You access the files through, you know, your own tablets, your smart devices, and so on and so forth. And then in the middle is called the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. This is the part where certain plays are involved, where you actually place certain services that you want to provide for the external world, but at the same time, it also have a secure connection back to the intranet, right? Which is something that you see on your right-hand side. Now, on the right-hand side is where the core of the EasyShare system itself. Now, if you look at the three boxes, the gray colored one, the blue colored one, as well as the slightly green colored one, you see that there's a DB server, there's an app server, and there's also a web server. Now, this architecture is really the three-tier platform that's designed with EasyShare. All right, animation, please. So how we see that is TrueNAS fits into it very nicely as the storage, because the TrueNAS can provide next click, please. TrueNAS can provide block storage for the DB server, as you can see in the first point. TrueNAS can provide file storage for the app server as well as the web server. And if you want to have immutability, as I mentioned, TrueNAS can also provide the object storage to the web server as well as the app server. All right. So the user files itself can be kept in the file storage as well as the object storage. So technically, this is how it's integrated at the high level. Next slide, please. So I want to actually maybe spend a bit of time to actually pick some questions, or maybe we'll do it at the end of it. But if you have any questions, do let us know, all right? And then we'll answer them as much as possible. But here's more of the marketing portion, all right, of introducing the TrueNAS. It is an open storage, an open source storage, actually, to be exact. Okay, one of the key things is it actually works with something called the Zfs File System. The Zfs File System was created by Sun Microsystem about 15 years ago, all right? And over time, this has been open source, and we have used the TrueNAS operating system, have used the OpenZFS as part of the entire file system management of the storage of TrueNAS. Next click, please. Yep. So this is where the TrueNAS is very unique because it has the mix of both enterprise as well as open source, meaning that it doesn't have to be always enterprise. It doesn't have to be always proprietary. Okay, a lot of times we have a lot of users that's able to take the software, download it for free, and actually build their own storage. Okay, but if they want higher capabilities, then we have the different versions or different flavors. Now, if you look on the right, there's different editions. There's the TrueNAS Core, which is actually the one on top. That's the free version. All right, you can download it. You can go to truenas.com. You can go to freenas.org. You can download the software. You can install it onto your PC, onto your virtual machine, and it just works. All right. But as you go higher, your business demands much stronger stability. All right. So, and this is the part that we talk about the TrueNAS Enterprise. And coming soon, we'll be building a scaled out capability that is a hyperconverged. And that's the third TrueNAS scale that you see, the 4 boxes that you see right in the middle. And in terms of the infrastructure, the hardware systems, we start from very small. We have the mini series, that's a very desktop version. So we have small businesses and small organization that uses the minis. But as they grow, and if they want to have high availability capabilities, higher performance, SSD support, and so on, then we have the X series as well as the M series. Next slide. Yeah, so please go ahead and click it because it's just introducing a few of them. So we support both the normal hard disk that grows as large as 18 terabytes today. All right, so it can start from 2 terabytes all the way to 18 terabytes. And we also support the solid state drive SSDs. Okay, SSD will start from 960 gig all the way up to 7.68 terabyte today. All right, but it's always growing, and we are always scaling out the system. Next slide, please. So we think that this is the TrueNAS itself is really a strong solution, right? Here it says NAS, right? But we actually support SAN as well, So I did mention that we support block storage. That's where the SAN part comes in. And it has a lot of extensive capability, right? It runs on most of the x86 server. It has a lot of plugins. The plugins are what we call the extensibility. And on the side that you can also have a true command software to manage all these systems. Next slide, please. Yep, go ahead. So as you can see, the system itself, the enterprise system, once you actually acquire the system, all right, is all-inclusive license. We do not charge for anything extra because all the features are given to you. All right, so this is the capability of the TrueNAS system. At the same time, in the enterprise offering, we provide different levels of support. We have bronze, silver, and also gold support. Next slide, please. Yeah, so all this thing is wrapped around to provide you a complete solution that is rock solid for your data foundation. Okay, so that's all I have for this morning. All right, so thank you very much. Okay, terima kasih untuk sekalian semua, for your time and so on. So I'll hand it back to Azlin so that he can actually continue on with the next presenter. Thank you so much. We will answer more questions afterwards.
Okey, terima kasih pada Cik Hyo membuat sesi pengenalan kita pada pagi ini mengenai TrueNAS Data Foundation. Dia telah menerangkan kita tentang capability of TrueNAS Data Foundation in terms of availability, protection with the self-healing features, and then compliance in terms of warm and immutable storage and so on. And also dia juga telah introduce kita mengenai integration TrueNAS dengan iXsystems. So kalau ada apa-apa soalan ataupun inginkan lebih lanjut information mengenai iXsystems, boleh hubungi iXsystems atau menghubungi kita melalui talian ataupun email. Dan juga kita akan sediakan borang maklum malas di akhir webinar ini. Okey, untuk sesi seterusnya mengenai pengenalan produk iXsystems, saya menjemput Cik Lim Tausun untuk memulakan sesi pengenalan. Okey, silakan Cik Lim.
Good morning, everyone. Right. So basically, I'm the pre-sales consultant for Optimium. Right. So let me go start for my slides of our presentations. Okay. So thank you very much for the introductions. As for Azlin mentions, my name is Lim, and I'm the pre-sales consultant for Optimium Solutions for our EasyShare platforms, which the products really focus with file security solutions. So some of you may heard before the terms, and some of you may not, all right? But the goals for my next 10 to 15 minutes is to get you informed and give you a brief introductions into the technologies, right? So if you come across any questions during these sessions, probably you can type into the chat box, and we will try to answer you during the end of the sections, if time allowed it. Else, my colleagues will follow up with you after the sections throughout emails, all right? All right, so let's begin. Okay, first of all, thank you very much, i-Nusantara, for giving me an opportunity to share about this iXsystems to you all, right? So let's have a quick overview. Who is Inspiretech, right? So Inspiretech has pledged in year 2000s, all right, and the HQ is in Singapore. Okay, Inspiretech provides several of solutions, shows below, all right. But today I'm just going to share to you one of the products. Is called iXsystems, and the products launched since year 2006, right? iXsystems also is an enterprise file security solutions that provides to governments and also enterprises. And today I will provide you a overview of what iXsystems does. All right, before I start, probably I will describe who we are, right? We are Optimum Solutions Syndrome Parts, right? We are the sole distributors for this iXsystems platform since October 2020, right? We specialize in security and storage technologies in terms of products and solutions. All right, so what is iXsystems? So iXsystems is an enterprise file security solutions to manage, to share, right, and governs file in anywhere, anytime on a single platform. So iXsystems also recognized as a leader in government security compliance, success, secure large file sharing, backup and sync, and also a world-class centralized administrations platform. So iXsystems focus on three main key areas, as shown in the slides. Okay, it's defined as a securities, visibilities, and controls, right? For example, securities will be like authentication access, then OTP 2FA, watermarks, these kind of features, right? Like expiry dates, download attempts, and many small features. So coming back to the second one will be the visibilities. So visibilities will be something that tracking the end-to-end file activities, so or monitoring the system admin activities. So we got a comprehensive audit logs and reports. So for the controls, it can be set a security policies either in the company's groups or user levels, right? Somehow you can also manage the user accounts, role and responsibilities, and also some permissions. You can set a role and access permissions on the folders or the file itself. So iXsystems provides a lot of customer references across to the Singapore at this moment in the area of governments and commercial as stated in the slides, right? What you can see. So from the government industry, you can see from either from the industry of legal, technologies, finance, healthcare, socials and cultures, and developments and utilities and transport and so on by using these iXsystems platforms. right? So from the commercials, angles, areas, it also consists of like entertainments, tradings, non-profits, education, healthcare also, and tourists as well, right? So then the next questions probably you are thinking in your mind is, what iXsystems used for, right? So basically, iXsystems have many use cases, and we really broadly categorize into two perspective areas, whereby one is the IT leaders at the left-hand screens, and another one will be the user's perspective, right? So when you talk about IT leaders, which means from the IT leaders perspective, we typically look at the more IT securities or infrastructures, architectures driven initiatives. For examples, I can give you examples like infrastructures modernizations, where the customers want to adopt a new technology, modern technologies, but they want to do in a way of minimize the disruptions to the users, right? But at the same time, iXsystems see a trend that organizations banning of USB drive and also banning for SMB protocols due to the security risks that often associate with the use of such devices and protocols. While during the banning, those USB and the SMB protocols, they also have to provide some solutions that to the users as well, whereby these are the areas that iXsystems come into the pictures, right? So over the user's perspective, right, they are always looking for workplace productivities, and at the same time, they are also looking for securities, controls, and visibilities in place. That means that implementing securities control without affecting any of their productivities. For examples like iXsystems sees a lot of organizations banning consumer file sharing tools due to against the risk that also associate with it so often to the users which need a solutions in such a case during the implementations of the controls. Probably another common scenarios iXsystems heard users always ask to backups, but they are not often equipped with the right tools, so that they forced to manually copy and paste perhaps to their external hard disk or putting somewhere that is considered as a backups, right? On the demands of better tools to end user to do employee backups, right? So basically, this is just a quick overview on the use cases that I shared to you, all right? If you come across any you would like to clarify, do put your comments in the webinar chat box, and probably we can schedule another sections with you, all right? So as I mentioned to you earlier, iXsystems has many use cases, right? So whereby this is one of the many examples in real life of a healthcare industry, right? They encounter a few challenges before implementing this iXsystems platform, like exchanging documents between multiple clinics, or they have a seniors management assessing a problem on the file on the move, right? So with this iXsystems platform, the hospital itself can send through their patients record with 2FA verifications, OTP verifications, and they got a secure web mobile apps to access all the files on the move, right? So as I mentioned earlier, iXsystems also have the examples of a secure large files, all right, exchange with a banks, all right. So these examples is they got a challenge like lack of audits and traceability when probably they use a third party, as I mentioned to you, all right. So iXsystems, they try to help the organizations to have a comprehensive files activities monitoring, all right. Then a part of that is also help them to send a large file more securely by using the OTP methods, right? Come back to the questions is like for government, probably you want to send a files more than 100 megs or whatever to your supports or to your other third parties, then then this is the things that you can solve on this particular platform, right? So another example is the file request. All right, so they have a challenge on sending a file through a public file transfer platform, which we are really considered as very, very risky and crucial to the organizations. So when iXsystems come into the pictures, it helps the organization to provide a secure link to recipients to upload those like either it's videos, image, and documents files. So I can give you examples like if particulars on the government's industries, then when you do a tenders, then probably you need a file request from all the participants, right? So probably you can send a link to them, then ask them to upload into that particulars to iXsystems platforms, right? So so this slide is just a user interface dashboard overview. How's the iXsystems look like? Like for example, functionalities like large file transfer can do functionalities, capabilities like 2FA verifications, as I mentioned to you, right? Limit download attempts, view only modes, link expiry date. So 2FA verification is like extra layers, another extra layers of security to ensure the right person accessing to the file itself, right? On the limit downloads attempts, you can restrict the recipients to a numbers of downloads to from the share files that the owners share it. So from the view only modes, we got a watermark on the file itself when you only enable these functions. So the watermark will be appears like such as like your email address, or you want to do a customizations, is also able to do it, right? For the link expired, you can restrict the access to the link after a certain period of time. So probably you want to set today's I want to make this link to be expired, right? So as I mentioned to you, they got file sharings and also file requests to the individuals, group, or imported list that you can import into these iXsystems platforms. So you can share the files or the whole folders or a combinations. There is no files limit size control, all right? And also there is no FTP site or email attachments. So once you share it, then you will have a notifications to the senders, all right? And also so a part of that, in secure collaborations, you can also see the folders role permissions, all right? So they can manage every single user role depending on the level of the permissions. A part of that, you can also enable folder expiry to restrict the access, as I mentioned, to you, a certain period of times. And also you can set a storage quota to manage the usage on individual users if you want to. All right, so a single access point for different file storage. So we are simplified daily works process when accessing different work drive. So we are supporting most of the common drive that available right now. For example, like AWS, S3, these kind of things. Okay. So a part of that, we got another few features that like check-in, check-out files, right? And versioning is quite common nowadays. And nevertheless, we got another new features recently released, which is a workflow. Probably is a is an approval before all the files can be shared. It's something like approvers. So it's based on what type of criteria you want to do. Either is you want to base on all the users to be approved before sharing the files, or individuals, right? These particular features, I will demo it later on during my demo sections. So a part of that, you also have the online editing, right? And also monitors. So on the online editing, you can stay connected and productive while you are working remotely. So you can access and edit your file in either readers in either in our laptops, tablets, or mobile from your mobiles. All right, on your browser itself. All right. So monitors will be another features that recently released together with the workflow that I mentioned just now. So monitor features is to keep update on the changes in either on the folders or the files. Okay, you can configure either is set the notifications on either you want to do it on change or frequently or when, right? So talking about deployment options. So on these easyshare platforms, we got 3 types of deployments method that you can choose. One is from on-premise, is 100% deployed in your premise. All right. On the cloud itself, we can work with IaaS or PaaS, right? Or you can choose hybrid mode. All right. We can work across on-premise and also cloud. Okay. We can leveraging servers on-premise. Okay. Together with TrueNAS as well. So back to the architectures, as mentioned by Chinpa. Okay, we got 2 types of architectures that ready. One is standards and one is enterprise. Right? For the standards, we are doing both internal and external usage. Right? It's a two-way communications. It's a two-way communications. So you can see, as I mentioned to Chinpa, then we on the storage, we will the TrueNAS, we're able to provide the block storage, file storage, and object storage, right? Which easyshare also support it. So on the architectures of enterprise, for example, with SFTP, right? What you can see is from your intranet, okay, users only can access easyshare through the intranet environment. So on your right-hand side, okay. So for example, share links or share request links from external recipients are only available through the DMZ environment. Okay, so from the intranets, they will pass a one-way traffic, okay, to DMZ. Okay, so which means it's only share content from internal users and push to DMZ to be delivered to the recipients. Okay, so this architecture is designed in AGAP, and also we are support in SFTPs, as I mentioned to it, or data dedups for a one-way connectivities. All right. So as the same, then the TrueNAS will be replaced. So, but last and not least, this easyshare platforms not only providing the enterprise file sharings or collaborations platforms, the easyshare itself also provide extended capabilities to work with all kinds of technologies partner nowadays, from semantic search or analytics like SIEM tools, right? Then from the data protections like DLP, threat preventions like EDR and antivirus, data management is like TrueNAS, okay, iXsystems, or even we can provide a REST API readiness to integrate with your current organization's business system, which easily plug into this easyshare platform to provide more advanced functionalities. All right. So this is my last slide. Okay. Any questions you can write into the chat box, and we are trying to answer you on the end of the section. So I back to Azli.
Lip, memandangkan kita dah kesedukan masa, mungkin kita boleh teruskan dengan sesi demonstrasi.
Can, no problem. So before I go to the demos, probably I will show you how the architectures works for this. I prepared 2 demos. All right. One is the 2FA adding solutions. All right. So basically, this scenario should be the easyshare users securely share files with external users. Right. So what you see on the diagram itself, the users sending opening a files or folders. All right, before opening this will be get authenticate from OTPs. So the second ones will be the workflow. Why the workflow is very, very important on it? Because of workflow is the share approval process. It's also a minus of data loss prevention functions that helps to ensure those sensitive data are not lost or misused or accessed by authorized users, right? So this will be the steps I'm going to do, right? On the bottom on it, you can see diagrams that user want to share a sensitive folders. So they will have email notifications to the data owners to get approved before sharing out to the external parties, right? These are the two demos I'm going to show you later on, right? Let me stop my sharing. Azlin, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So what you see is these EasyShare platforms, you got the admins, portals, and also a user's accounts. So basically, these admin portals will do all the configurations for the users, right? And the users will only have the personal information, right? Let me access into it. Due to I have a limitations of the times, so I already create two users. There is one user 1 and one user 2, all right, by using my email address, all right? So I already did the configurations earlier. So I back to users accounts and key in the user one first, and to let you see how the DoFA works. So this is the interface dashboard of users. All right. For the first demos, I will trying to upload files. It's called .text1. So when you upload, you will see uploading, right? Okay. Before that, before I send it to the externals, really I need to click on the so I will insert my emails as a recipient. All right, I can place my contact numbers. All right, share with you only probably. Then I will do a share. So share files has been created. All right, I back to then after that you will see notifications coming out from my mailbox itself. Okay, from the recipient's mailbox itself. Give a moment to receiving the emails. Sometimes it will take some time to receiving the emails or the notifications. Oh, I didn't add it. Okay, hold on. Some technical. Let me fill up ins. Tony, I'm trying to share. All right. Probably I share the whole. right? You all can still seeing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you will receive a link, right? Notifications from iXsystems, all right? So usually will be click on the links itself.
Tak apalah. Tak ada apa yang penting pun.
So I will copy it. Testing. So the recipients will see this page, this dashboard, and is only shared with the view only permissions, right? So you will see a watermark behind the document with my email address. All right. So before that, I forgotten to put as a OTP. Hold on, give me a second. Okay. Let me try one OTP. Okay, let me try it out. Trying to put okay, all right. File created. Waiting for the email notifications. Oh, okay, I can't do. Okay, give me a second. You all still can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So this is my sharing. So I can see a OTP functionalities. I need to enable it. Yeah, I will key in my mobile phone and I enable the OTPs, right? I'm sharing. So you can see the file share has been created. Right, so you can see as a recipient, you can see the links. Then you will see a page that asking to request OTPs. All right. So you got the owner itself. You also have a copy on your email. So the next thing will be generate the OTPs. So the OTP will send to my mobile phone. All right, I'm receiving the OTPs 795464. Right. So once I click the submit, then I will able to see the files that I shared. right? This is the demos on number 1. Right? Back to the demos number 2, which is a workflow, right? So probably I will delete it, everything first. Files. So we see all the files activity has been cleared. So the first thing is I need to upload a file first, right? So, okay, workflow. So it's upload, the status will be complete. All right, this is on users 1. So I'm creating a workflow. So it's required a users 1 to do a proof before sharing out this file. All right, I'm done. Then I will sign out. Then I will access to users 2. All right. So on users 2, you will see the files. All right. As a users 2, they try to share the files to another user. So it's required a approval from the user 1, as I mentioned to you. So I'm putting my email address. All right, I will share. Okay, somehow you won't see in the file activities because of your files is still haven't get approved yet. So once I log out, I will back to user 1. Okay, I'm back to user 1. All right, so they got 2 methods. One is you will see an email notifications. Either you want to approve it or reject it. All right, for this demo, I will let you see over the browsers. You can review file request. You will see it's the same. Actually, it's the same. It's a approve or either it's reject. So once I click approve, so the files will be sharing. All right. So this is my demos for this particular webinar. All right. If you come across any scenarios that you wish to know about it, probably we can schedule another section with you, and we will demo to you based on your requirements. All right. Thank you so much. Azlin, I back to you.
Cik Lim. Okey, pemandangan kita pun kesedukan masa dan sekiranya sesiapa yang ada pertanyaan untuk mengetahui lebih lanjut mengenai 2 produk ini, itu iXsystems Tunes dengan iXsystems, boleh hubungi kami melalui borang maklum balas ataupun di talian maupun di email. Okey, untuk agenda kita yang terakhir hari ini iaitu sesi soal jawab. Alright, okey. Okay, mungkin kita boleh mulakan sesi soal jawab kita mengenai produk iXsystems dulu ya. Okey, ini soalan ni kita ditujukan kepada Encik Lim. Okey, soalan pertama yang kita ada ialah what type of Active Directory brands can we import or export to iXsystems?
All right. Okay, good question. So basically we support MS ADs or either is Azure ADs in terms of the integrations to iXsystems platforms. All right. So there is also an iXsystems applications for authentication for the hybrid ADs as well.
Okay. And then kita ada another question from Elvin Tan. Okay. Can iXsystems replace SMB like Windows File Server?
All right. So iXshare actually is not going to replace SMB, right? iXshare is just a platform that connect to different file repositories. Like for examples, like today's sections, iXshare is connect to, work together with the TrueNAS, file storage, NAS, object storage, S3s or block storage, Sense, and many more.
Alright, okay, thank you. Kita ada soalan seterusnya kepada Kekal mengenai iXsystems. Soalannya ialah what is the value proposition of the open source storage economy?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for the question. Open source has been a mainstay with us for almost 2-3 decades. It's very important that you can see that the open source development has created a lot of value proposition, especially in storage, because today a lot of the enterprise storage itself are proprietary. This means that there's vendor lock-in, and this also gives a lesser choice for the end user to select their solution. What we provide is the open source solution, excuse me, together with the enterprise solution will allow you to actually adjust your requirement. Take for example, if you have a requirement that doesn't require enterprise support, you can actually download the free version and build it yourself. And there's actually a very strong community worldwide, to support this open source storage OS. But at the same time, if you require the high-end support from us, then we can actually look at the TrueNAS Enterprise. So this is actually a very key value proposition in terms of the open source storage economics. Yep.
Soalan seterusnya pada Encik Hyo juga. The TrueNAS Enterprise platform is interesting because it unifies SAN, NAS, and object storage. What about the storage media such as flash storage?
Yep. So we support both normal hard disk, which is the normal spinning drive, as well as flash storage. And we also can support an all-flash storage as well. So this means that you can actually build a very fast, high-performance system, all right, for your applications. So we do support both hybrid as well as flash.
I see. Okay. Okay, memandangkan kita pun dah melebihi masa sesi kita. Kita bacakan soalan yang terakhir untuk Encik Hyo juga. Many NAS solutions are frequently compromised by ransomware. Can TrueNAS system itself be compromised by ransomware?
Well, here's the thing. When we talk about, just now we talked about self-healing, right? If the system has been infected, and this is actually talking about the storage OS, not the user files, right? If the system has been infected, it will be alerted and it will be corrected by the self-healing feature. So the TrueNAS system cannot be compromised, because of the self-healing feature. It will correct itself if it was infected.
I see. Okay. Terima kasih kepada pembicara kita, Encik Lim dan Encik Hyo untuk sesi soal jawab ini. Okey. Terima kasih kepada attendees yang sudi meluangkan masa untuk menghadiri sesi webinar ini. Dan pada akhir sesi nanti kita akan sediakan satu borang maklum balas. So anda boleh isikan sekiranya anda ingin mengetahuinya lebih lanjut kedua produk yang kita share hari ini. Dan juga boleh hubungi kita di talian ataupun di secara email untuk kita berkongsi dengan lebih lanjut mengenai dua produk ini. Okey. Terima kasih kepada semua.